Hello everyone, this is Raven here with another gameplay battle replay of the Bretonians versus the Empire. So as you can see, I brought a pretty interesting build today, so I'll go ahead and take a look at it. As you can see, I only brought 9 cavalry units and then the Fey Enchantress herself over here to this battle today. So let me go ahead and take a look at what we have for her. So as you can see, I brought her legendary item, the Chalice of Potions, which is pretty much 3 uses of the Comet of Cassandora from the light magic. So that's going to be doing some really, really good damage against any grouped up infantry that decide to blob too hard against my knights. And then the Favor of the Fae. So the Favor of the Fae here is a pretty interesting ability. I like using it in combination with the Grail Guardians. As you can see, they only have 32 melee attack, but with their 56 melee defense and pretty decent weapon strength, putting them into the front line where they're able to hold for a long time and then giving them that 58 melee attack for a total of 90 melee attack just makes them absolute monsters in the front line. They're just going to be able to cut through any low armor infantry that I stick them against. And then you can see that I have two healing spells for her. I have Regrowth and then Earthblood, and then you can see one more ability here that I want to highlight, which is the Mist of the Lady. So it actually causes damage to combatants and gives a -8 melee attack. So this is pretty good. It actually takes off 15 HP per second or so. I'm not quite sure about the timing of that. But any units within the 30-meter radius of her is going to be taking 15 HP damage per second. And that really adds up. So this battle itself lasts for 3 minutes. So that's already 180 times 15 damage if she's stuck into combat against somebody. That's quite a bit of damage. Over here you can see the life bloom, so anytime I use a healing spell, everybody's going to be getting some little healing, and you can see the Aura of the Lady. So this is actually a pretty nice ability that I like to bring for her as well. So the Empire like to boast the Hammer of the Witches with its magic damage and pretty substantial anti-large bonus for their Great Cannon. And then the other Regiment of Renown, which is the Silver Bullets, which do magical damage, armor-piercing missile shots against the any opposing forces. So thankfully they don't have them, and they don't have the Hammer of the Witches. So I did waste a little bit of money there, but it would have been beneficial had I brought it and they had brought those units themselves. So over here you can actually see that the Aura of the Lady, giving that 12% magic resistance, actually affects herself as well. So combined with the 60% magical resistance of Silveron, her legendary mount, she actually has a total of 72 magic resistance. That's pretty incredible. I think she's a pretty solid combatant, especially if, like, say he had brought Volkmar the Grim, who does magical damage. A lot of that would have been negated by her magic resistance. Over here, 15% missile resistance, which goes with the low armor and being a caster as per usual. And then 20% physical resistance because of the blessing of the Lady, as with the Grail Guardians and Grail Knights on the sides. So over here, you can actually see that I have a unit of Questing Knights, and it's just going to be the same thing for this side over here as what's over here. So I have a unit of Questing Knights over here. They have pretty good weapon damage, 46 of that, and then 34 of the 46 damage is actually going to be armor piercing, mixed with 36 melee defense and 38 melee attack. If you put them in the front line, they're going to be able to hold and be able to chew through any unit that you put them up against. They're a pretty solid frontline unit, even as a cavalry unit, because they're not shock cavalry, They're actually just meant to be charged in and stay in combat for quite a while, and they're pretty effective at it. Next, you can see some Knights of the Realm for some anti-large bonuses and pretty decent charge damage, so being able to whittle down any lightly armored infantry that the Empire might have brought. And over here we have some Knights Errant, so just cheap units that I needed to spend some money on. And I got some Knights Errant because they just do pretty decent against any infantry you might be seeing. And then over here on the side I have the heavy duty Grail Knights. So over here you can see they're just absolutely dominating charge damage. One of the highest charge damages in the game, I think, if not the highest, at 82. And then you can see that their weapon strength is actually 39, but they get a 12 bonus versus large. So in total, be doing 51 damage and magical damage against any units that might be brought to bear against them. Over here, we'll take a look at my opponent's army. So he has a standard general of the Empire right here, and he has a potion of toughness on him, and the Foe Seeker ability, which gives that added 24% speed and 80% vigor. So that's going to be pretty healthy for him, just keeping him nice and fresh in the fight, keeping that vigor loss as minimum as possible, because as units start to get more tired during fights, they actually start performing worse and worse in the front lines. So over here, you can actually see that Grail Knights and Grail Guardians actually have immune to vigor themselves, so that's just a pretty beneficial trait. Over here for his front line, you can see that he has 2 units of Flagellants, flanking 2 units of Great Swords, and in the middle, Sigmar's Son. So 3 unbreakable units tagged by the Great Swords, which are a pretty sturdy frontline unit with their extremely heavy armor and pretty good melee stats. So in the back over here, you can actually see he has 3 Spearmen, no shields, so pretty cheap, just trying to have that extra little stability against any cavalry that might be getting around and trying to harass his missile line before they can do their good work against any of my knights trying to charge down the field and kill them. So over here you can actually see that he has 2 Reichsguard units, one of them being the Regiment of Round, the Zentler's Reichsguard. So I did some one-on-one testing before, and you can actually see if you do it yourself that Reichsguard beat Knights of the Realm one-on-one. So any cavalry unit that's not a questing knight or better will actually lose in a one-on-one engagement against these Reichsguard. And these Zentler's Reichsguard over here with their improved stats compared to the non because as you can see they're actually a chevron up to rank 9, whereas these ones are not. So that improved melee attack and melee defense is just going to make them an absolute powerhouse on this field, able to pretty much kill 2, 3, 4 out of my 9 units if they were to get a one-on-one engagement. So we'll see how that plays out. So for his real damage dealing part of the army, we have 2 great cannons. So they're going to be doing some good work, especially if my lines were a little bit thicker, but I stretched them out pretty wide just in case he had brought some cannons. So thankfully, I anticipated this. So they'll be doing some pretty good work either way. And then 2 units of handgunners flanking a crossbowman in the center. So they're going to be doing some really good armor-piercing damage with their missile shots and being able to do some good work while my knights are stuck into combat and being able to shoot over the heads of all their friends over here. And you can see that he also brought the Light Wizard with only the Net of Emmentalk and the Scroll of Power. So as he casts that net, as it wears off, he's going to be able to pop that Scroll of Power and immediately be able to cast another net should he choose to. And that's going to be pretty devastating if he was able to isolate 2 units before they got in and just being able to focus fire them down before they can even do their damage. That'd be pretty powerful and pretty painful for me because as you can see, every unit's going to count here. I'm outnumbered over 2 to 1. It's 406 to 1,022 troops. So every single one of my units has to be very, very effectively played. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off, and you'll be able to see some initial fire coming from the cannons and be able to chunk through some of my questing knights, unfortunately. But we'll go ahead and get in there hot and heavy and try to get the best engagements possible. As you can see, these cannons are immediately going to start firing. They just say, fuck these knights. And you can see going straight through 2 of my knights right there, already down to 43 models, taking another one, shooting him right off the horse, sadly. So over here, you can actually see that I'm going to get some pretty good engagements across the line. You can see that I'm going to be able to put my Grail Guardians right up against this Sigmar Sun, so that low armor unit versus these very good melee defense Grail Guardians. They're going to be able to get in here and be able to just totally body these poor swordsmen. Over here you can actually see that I have questing knights in the perfect position to be able to engage both of his great swords. They're going to be able to get in there and get that extremely good charge bonus and be able to just straight chop through their armor and be able to win that engagement and be able to pull through the back lines pretty quickly, I'm hoping. And then over here you can actually see that the Knights of Realm, with their higher charge damage and higher weapon strength than the Knights Errant, are going to be able to punish these flagellants pretty heavily as well and be able to pull through the back. So I'm hoping to be able to punch through as fast as possible. And as you can see, a net's actually going down, and you can actually see that he starts focusing down all my knights with his handgunners, and the cannons just start unloading. As you can see, this unit already brought down low to 37 models just by a couple shots from this great cannon right here. So as you can see, the charge damage is pretty substantial based off of the initial engagement from my questing knights, and they're able to pretty much take out these great swords as soon as this fight starts going off. So as you can see, they have 73 models left, but their HP is already dropping below half. Over here, these flagellants were absolutely devastated. So they've just been completely annihilated and almost wiped off the field. Over here, these Grail Knights got a pretty good charge bonus off against this Zentler's Reichsguard, but sadly they're going to start losing this engagement pretty hard because these 2 Reichsguard, even though they don't have as good a stats as the Grail Knights, their heavy armor is just going to be what ends up winning them against, winning the day against these Grail Knights, who sadly do not have armor-piercing damage and are in a 2-to-1 engagement. So even with their 20% physical resistance, they're just not going to be able to win. Over here you can see that I actually held these Grail Knights in reserve just in case I was able to get a more advantageous charge off. I should have gone ahead and ran them straight up through here and tried and got into his back line. But as you can see, the General of the Empire is in here and able to start doing some really good work against these Knights Errant. And them, with their very low morale, are actually going to be terrified and start running from the battlefield pretty soon, because as you can see, they're engaged against all these spearmen, and the armor-piercing damage of the General of the Empire is just absolutely going to just wreck these guys. They're just going to not want to be here any longer than they have to be. They're going to flee quite soon. Over here in the front, you can see that these questing knights are actually able to just decimate these great swords as well, and they're going to start pulling through pretty soon. And over here you can be seeing that as well from these questing knights, so I'm going to start pulling them through and try and take them into the back line. But as you can see, these knights routed off due to terror, and I'm pulling in my questing knights, trying to take out these spearmen. Over here, the general of the Empire lands, and I'm going to start pulling in my questing knights to start trying to do that armor-piercing damage against him, because although Grail Guardians are great in combat, they are not good at armor-piercing and are not good against heavily armored factions. Over here, I decided to try and pull in my questing knights and change my mind and redirected them over here against these handgunners, because they are just doing withering fire against these Knights of the Realm. Over here, you can see that my Grail Guardians are actually going to rout from the field, and they're going to be taken out, even though I did put a heal on them earlier and am getting a second one off. These Knights are just tired. Over here, you can see that these Knights of the Realm are actually going to lose this engagement, even though it shows them as winning currently. That's just because the heal's going off. So as you can see, these two Reichsguard are actually adding up to a fully healed unit of Reichsguard, especially with this one being chevroned up all the way to rank 9, just due to them being a regiment of renown. So these units are also going to run from the field, and they're going to go over there and regroup with the Grail Guardians as soon as they come back. Over here, you can see that my Knights Errant were actually taken out by these Spearmen, who have 30 kills. That is just so ridiculous. So over here, you can see that they actually got 51 kills, so they did pay for themselves quite well. They were able to get in here and stop a lot of these units from firing, but eventually got taken out by these Spearmen. So sadly, I wasn't able to get as much work as I wanted from them. Over here in the front, you can see that my Grail Guardians and my Questing Knights and my Fey Enchanters are actually going to start doing some pretty good damage against the General of the Empire over time. You're not going to see it quite yet, but it will be coming through quite quickly. And over here you can see that his handgunners are starting to line up and start doing as much damage as possible to my units. But as you can see, his front line is just destroyed. As you can see, this front line, just dead bodies everywhere with so few knights in return. So it's already down to 230 units for me, but he's already down to 384 units himself, and I still have this healthy unit of Grail Knights over here. 45 models, and they're already up to 80 kills. And over here, he's trying to pull in the Zentler's Reichsguard to try and stop these Knights of the Realm and Grail Guardians. But as you can see, they're just going to be mixed in with such powerful units that they're going to be able to take down these Zentler's Reichsguard with no problem. And I'm able to stop the firing of these crossbowmen just due to my Grail Knights being mixed in around there. And these handgunners are actually still engaged with the Grail Guardians. And over here against the General of the Empire, I'm going to be able to start doing some pretty good work against him. As you can see, like I said, the lady is just able to start doing some pretty good fire. Over here, I start putting down a Comet of Cassandora due to the Chalice of Potions. And you can see it over there being summoned in the sky, and it's going to come down here and just do some absolutely devastating work, and it's just going to kill all these units. And this was just a brutal comet. These guys were so sad they didn't see any of this coming, and they were grouped up, and they didn't even move. They just were trying to get in there and shoot as many people as possible, and as you can see, they just explode and die instantaneously and are going to flee from the battlefield. So from with this, you can see that these crossbowmen are actually fleeing and starting to cause some fear among the ranks, and they can, my knights are over here and they can smell blood. They start chasing after the General of the Empire, trying to finish him off. They say for the lady one last time and get a last couple hits, and he shatters and runs from the field. From here, you're going to see army losses are going to be kicking in all over the place. Even though I did lose micro on these units, if it had come down to it, I would have been able to bring them back in from routing. And you can see that the final units have shattered, and there are no more unbreakable units on the field. I have killed every single one of them. This is going to be an outstanding victory for the Bretonnians here today. So in the end, the front line was so poorly engaged. I was able to get every single unit on what they needed to attack in the front line and push through extremely quickly, and being able to devastate his missile line before they were actually able to do any good fire, and be able to kill my knights before they could actually do what I really wanted them to do. And so thankfully his net actually didn't catch more than one unit, so my Grail Guardians being able to resist that physical damage from their armor-piercing missiles and being able to get into the combat where they needed to be and protect the lady like I really needed was just able to really help me win the day, because he just didn't have anything to stop all these knights. Even though he did have the 3 spearmen and the 2 cavalry units of his own, his infantry just performed so poorly, and he had put so much money into them that it just ended up not being able to be as cost effective as he wanted. As you can see, these Knights of the Realm getting 153 kills, 101, 106, 103 on these questing knights, and 111 on these Grail Knights over here, able to do just devastating work in the front and back lines. The Fey Enchantress not getting very many kills herself, but that's okay. She was just there for that healing and being able to take down the life points of all units around here very slowly, which is very effective against these unbreakable frontline units. So thankfully she was able to do that, make them a little bit weaker, while the Grail Guardians were able to punish through and push through these Sigmar Suns. So as always, guys, if y'all like what y'all saw, go ahead and leave a big old like for me. Subscribe if you want to see more, and in the bottom in the comment section, go ahead and leave a comment criticizing anything that would make this viewing experience more pleasurable for you. And if you have any replays, go ahead and send them to neher.r.shs@gmail.com, and I'll go ahead and cast those for you if y'all want to see your games put on onto YouTube and start supporting my channel a little bit more. As always, guys, I'll catch y'all later.